The birth of Israel, a land at the center of conflict. For thousands of years, this tiny strip of land has been conquered, divided, and fought over by some of history's most powerful empires. Babylon, Rome, the Crusaders, the Ottomans. But in 1948, something happened that would change the world forever. A modern nation was born, not through peaceful negotiations, but through war, displacement, hope, tragedy, and unimaginable sacrifice. How did a people scattered for centuries, hunted, exiled, and nearly destroyed in the Holocaust, rise to build one of the most powerful and controversial countries on earth? Why did 5 Arab armies invade on day 1? Why did over 700,000 Palestinians lose their homes? And how did the seeds of one of the world's longest and bloodiest conflicts get planted? This is not just the story of Israel. It's the story of survival, ambition, and human struggle, a story still unfolding today. Stay with me, because to understand the present, we must first witness how it all began. The region now called Israel-Palestine has been inhabited for over 5,000 years. Known in ancient texts as Canaan, it was a crossroads between Africa and Eurasia coveted by empires. In the Bronze Age, early city-states developed in Canaan. Around 1000 BCE, the Israelite kingdoms emerged, establishing Jerusalem as their capital. King Solomon built the first temple, which would become central to Jewish identity for centuries. In 586 BCE, Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians. Thousands of Jews were exiled to Babylon. But just decades later, in 539 BCE, Cyrus the Great of Persia allowed many to return and rebuild their temple. The Second Temple was completed in 515 BCE. Foreign rule continued. Alexander the Great conquered the region in 332 BCE. Then came Roman rule, which solidified by 63 BCE. In 70 CE, the Romans destroyed the Second Temple after a Jewish revolt. Jews were banned from Jerusalem, and the land was renamed Palestine after the failed Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 CE. The land passed through Byzantine rule, then Arab-Muslim conquest in the 7th century. Crusaders took it for a time, only to be driven out. Finally, in 1517, the Ottoman Empire absorbed the region, ruling for over 400 years. For 7 centuries, the Ottomans maintained relative stability. But in the 19th century, global forces shifted. The empire weakened. Meanwhile, in Europe, rising anti-Semitism forced Jews to rethink survival. In 1882, the first large wave of Jewish immigrants arrived, marking the first Aliyah. The Zionist movement formally began in 1897, led by Theodor Herzl, who declared that Jews needed a publicly recognized homeland in Palestine. Early settlers built agricultural communities, often purchasing land legally but causing friction with local Arab tenants who feared displacement. For decades, Jewish immigration was modest, tens of thousands by the time World War I began. During World War I, Britain battled the Ottomans and eventually seized control of Palestine. In 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, supporting the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Its vague language fueled future disputes. After the war, the League of Nations granted Britain a mandate over Palestine. Between 1920 and 1948, Britain struggled to manage the rising tensions between Arabs and Jews. Jewish immigration surged, especially as Jews fled increasing persecution in Europe. Arab resistance grew, leading to riots in 1920, 1921, 1929, and a full-scale Arab revolt between 1936 and 1939.
By 1945, the situation was explosive. The Holocaust had devastated European Jewry. Over 6 million Jews were murdered. The survivors, displaced and homeless, sought refuge. Many turned to Palestine, but British restrictions limited entry. Jewish underground groups like the Haganah and Irgun took up arms against the British, launching attacks and organizing illegal immigration efforts. Arabs, meanwhile, strongly opposed further Jewish immigration, fearing for their land and future. Unable to maintain order, Britain handed the problem to the newly formed United Nations.
In 1947, after intense debate, the UN proposed a partition plan: 2 states, 1 Jewish and 1 Arab, with Jerusalem under international control. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan, though it allocated 55% of the land to Jews. who comprised 1/3 of the population at the time. The Arab leadership rejected the proposal, unwilling to surrender any land they considered Arab and Muslim. Immediately after the UN vote, violence erupted. Civil war broke out between the two communities. Armed clashes, ambushes, and blockades became common. Jewish convoys were attacked. Arab villages were besieged. Both sides committed atrocities. As the British Mandate neared its end, chaos reigned. The entire region was descending into full-scale war. On May 14, 1948, as the British withdrew, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. Within hours, 5 neighboring Arab nations, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, invaded. The Jewish forces, though smaller and less equipped, were highly organized. The Haganah transformed into the Israel Defense Forces. Every able-bodied Jew was mobilized. The stakes were nothing less than survival. The war unfolded across multiple fronts. In Jerusalem, Jewish neighborhoods were cut off and besieged, while Jordan's Arab Legion captured the Old City. In the north, Syrian and Arab Liberation Army forces advanced into Galilee, only to be pushed back. In the south, Egypt's army advanced deep into the Negev, threatening key Jewish settlements. Yet Israeli counteroffensives managed to repel and encircle Egyptian units. As months passed, Israeli forces grew stronger. Surprising victories and arms shipments turned the tide. Slowly, Israel pushed back its enemies and expanded beyond the UN's proposed borders. By early 1949, a series of armistice agreements were signed. The new borders, known as the Green Line, granted Israel control of about 78% of historic Palestine, including West Jerusalem, Galilee, and the Negev Desert. But victory came at a great human cost. During the war, around 700,000 Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled from their homes. Entire villages were depopulated. Palestinians refer to this tragedy as the Nakba, or catastrophe. Most became permanent refugees, living in camps across Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan at the same time. Jewish refugees from Arab countries, many facing persecution, began arriving in Israel. Over the next few years, about 300,000, Jews from Middle Eastern and North African countries would make Israel their new home. Israel now faced the enormous task of absorbing these immigrants. Tent camps and temporary housing, ma'abarot, sprang up across the country. Within 3 years, Israel's population had doubled. The nation's leadership under David Ben-Gurion prioritized rapid nation building. A socialist-oriented government emphasized collective agricultural settlements called kibbutzim, nationalized industries, and state-led infrastructure projects. New roads, schools, hospitals, and defense industries were established. The Hebrew language, once mostly reserved for religious purposes, was revived as the common national language, uniting diverse Jewish communities from Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Water projects transformed arid land into fertile farmland. New cities rose from the sand. Scientific research, universities, and military innovation became pillars of the young state. But the Palestinian refugee crisis remained unresolved, fueling bitterness and future conflicts. Israel's borders remained contested. The Arab world, still rejecting Israel's existence, would not make peace. Within less than 2 decades, Israel had emerged as a functioning modern state, yet the seeds of ongoing conflict had been planted. The wars, negotiations, and uprisings that would follow continue to shape the Middle East today. The story of Israel's birth is not simply a chapter of the past. It remains alive in today's headlines, peace efforts, debates, and aspirations. And so, from ancient kingdoms to modern politics, the land remains a place of passion, tragedy, hope, and unending complexity. Which chapter would you like to explore next? The Six-Day War, the Oslo Accords, or the modern geopolitics that continue to define this region? Stay with us as we continue to explore the rich and turbulent history of the Middle East.